Hey guys, so today I'm gonna be reading scary stories that will give you goosebumps. Yeah, let's just get right into the video. My mum was driving and a guy ran out in the road, so she stopped so she couldn't hit him. It was nighttime, so it was pretty dark out, and 3 other men emerged from the forest around, all trying to use the door handles of her car to get in. She locked them luckily and gassed it to the nearest town. Remember to always lock your car after you start it, because if it wasn't unlocked, who knows what would have happened to her. This is really good advice. Like, whenever you go into your car, just lock your door. It's better to be safe than sorry, okay? You never know who's gonna try to open your door, you know? That is scary. Oh my gosh. Oh, I would freak out. I don't even know, man. My mom's friend had a small house and lived alone. She noticed weird things. A batch of soup depleting faster than usual. Missing eggs. Damp towels in the hamper when she hadn't used any. Extra dishes in the dishwasher. Etc. Someone's living there for sure. The person who's living there isn't doing a good job though. They aren't even trying to be like subtle with it. They're just, taking a shower, cooking some bacon and eggs, This went on for months. She thought she was just being forgetful. One day she heard some thumping around in her attic and went to investigate. She found some makeshift living quarters, small radio, hot plate, sleeping bag, pillow, food wrappers, etc. She called the cops who came to keep an eye on the place. They ended up catching a homeless man climbing a tree, trying to sneak into her attic window. He had been doing this almost daily. He would wait for her to go to work and then go downstairs and help himself to food and amenities. Whoa. The funny part about this story is they got to know each other throughout the ordeal, and the guy was actually very respectful, just down on his luck. She didn't press charges, instead let him move in. Helped him get a job, and he lived in the attic until he got back on his feet. Creepy with a happy ending. What? Wow, she's so nice. She's so nice, because if that was me, I'm suspicious of everyone, okay? That's crazy. She's actually so nice. Oh my gosh. Yo, he was just living there, okay? He didn't even try to hide it. He was just living there. But honestly though, I do feel like when you're in that moment, you probably will just blame yourself, like, oh, there's a towel, oh, it must have been me, because you live alone. So obviously you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, oh, it's me again. I'm so forgetful. But if there's missing food, for sure I'm gonna notice missing food, because I'm gonna remember when I've ate, okay? If there's a missing egg, oh, someone's in my house. In my old job, I used to cycle home from work along the country back roads just before midnight. There were no streetlights along those roads, and I hated cycling on the main road because I was anxious about being in the way of traffic. I had an LED light that was fixed to the front of my bike. Anyway, I was on my way back home from work one night, and after turning a corner, my light shone on someone who was sitting with their legs crossed in the middle of the road. The guy was just sitting there in complete silence and darkness by himself. I put on the brakes and stopped in front of him and asked if he was alright. He just looked at me and said that he was trying to get to a location that was approximately 20 miles or so from where we were. I told him that, and he said he knew and that he was waiting for someone else. Then he got up and walked off into one of the nearby fields without saying anything. I had another encounter with this same person a week later in the exact same spot. It honestly gave me the creeps, especially when he said that he'd found who he was looking for. Turns out the guy was waiting for a specific car to drive that way. The owner of said car was someone he loved, but was with someone else, and he was planning to kidnap her. I found this out when I saw his face in one of the local newspapers not long after this incident. Whoa, that's a close call for her too though. I mean, he wasn't aiming for her, but like, thinking about it is just so scary, because it's like, oh, I was talking to someone who was planning this. That is scary. I got a call from an unsolicited number. I answered it, and it was a guy saying he was going to come to my dorm room. He then went into graphic detail about how he would do it. He went on about it for like 5 minutes before I finally hung up. He then called again, and I didn't answer, but he left a voicemail. I called the police, and it was a person out in Vegas. They said it was a prank. So many questions still. How did they know my name? How did they know I was in a dorm? I was super on edge for the remainder of that semester. It was someone they knew. It's obvious. I feel like it's obvious it's someone they know, because if it's a stranger, they wouldn't know that. Unless that stranger has been stalking them for a while. from the moment they got into that dorm till now. That is scary. It's not a prank if someone has to call the police, okay? When I was in high school about 10 years ago, I was home alone while my mum went to pick up my brother, and before my mum left, she told me to bring the dogs in. Now, we had 2 beagles, one that was friendly but barked loud, and an older one that we had gotten from the shelter was extremely protective and was not afraid to show his teeth. I ignored her and left him outside for a bit. I was in the back part of the house and was on the computer when I heard a noise. I walked to our front room and saw a young guy near the front door who knocked. I stood slightly out of sight and saw him walk near our window and then back to the door and knocked again, but also tried the door. Oh my gosh. Immediately my blood went cold and I rushed to the back door and quietly yelled for the dogs to come in. They ran in and I herded them to the front room and I heard the mailbox slot open. Right away my older beagle got on the defensive and growled the "I'm gonna bite you" growl while the other one barked. Oh my gosh. I got my phone and called my mum and begged her to come back home, which she did with my brother. They looked around and saw no other signs of entry. I triple check every door now, and even though those 2 dogs have passed away, I keep our current dog near me when home alone. Whoa. It's so important to have like a dog or like a pet who can like, you know, sense something, okay? Because I feel like a dog is way more alert than us because they can hear way better, okay? But sometimes they're just a bit too alert and they just bark at nothing. I'm saying this because my dog just makes me feel so safe. Okay. Like I'm never bored. I just love being with her and she's always there just to protect me. So thank gosh. But oh my gosh, that is scary. I consider myself a rational person. Of course, most people would believe that of themselves, however objective they try to be. This is something that happened to me and a friend around 18 years ago. I was hanging out with him and his cousin in his new house. This was a somewhat busy area nearer to a major commercial center. At around 9 p.m, we decided to take a walk to a convenience store for food. His cousin decided to stay at the house. It took us 30 minutes to get to the store. There was a fair amount of vehicular and pedestrian traffic. On the way back, we both started getting this really weird feeling. It's hard to describe now, but both of our experiences matched up when discussing it later on. It felt like the air was much lighter, thinner. The street seemed odd somehow, out of place. All of a sudden, there were no cars or people around. Everything went dead silent. This continued for a few minutes and we both started walking faster. What freaks me out to this day, and what I could never explain, is this. Both our watches stopped working. My digital and his analog. His watch stopped at 9:41 p.m. Someone stopped time, but it didn't stop for them. He was later able to get it fixed. Mine was dead for good. When we got back to the house, it was minutes to 11 and his cousin was freaking out. We were gone for an hour longer than we were meant to be. There was no way we could have taken that long to get back. If anything, we walked faster than we did getting to the store. It's something I usually don't like thinking or talking about. Neither does my friend for that matter. That is scary. Stories like this just make me so curious, you know? Like, can it actually happen? You know, like time travelers, you know, stopping time, all that stuff. Crazy. I used to do some urban exploring, but not so much anymore. Probably the freakiest experience I've had was when I was at an abandoned factory with a friend in a rougher part of town. Why? Abandoned factory? That already sounds bad. We had been through most of the building at that point and not run into anybody. I've only ever occasionally bumped into other explorers and that's it. As we were about to leave, we heard a loud clang hitting the concrete from somewhere behind us and the sounds of footsteps taking off deeper into the building towards a distant exit. Since the footsteps had moved away and I was with my friend, I hurried over to see what made the noise. I discovered a rusty crowbar laying on the floor, which I hadn't seen when we had been in that area earlier. My guess was someone was planning on robbing us, but had mistakenly dropped the crowbar and they took off. I had wondered if they had been following us around and how long they'd been doing so, waiting for the perfect opportunity to ambush us. Whether or not they were planning on doing something, someone with a rusty crowbar in an abandoned building in a bad part of town isn't exactly a good sign. Of course, we got out of there because we were convinced that whoever had just bolted might be trying to get more people to go wait at the exits for us to come out. That's so scary. Oh my gosh. Thank gosh they thought quick and they were like, we're out. This is why you don't explore abandoned places with no one around, because if something happens to you, you get no help, okay? Like, no one's gonna be there, okay? Just be safe, alright? Just remember about your safety first, please. Me and 5 other people saw a monster while we were out camping. We were walking through a trail to get to the campsite and we noticed a tall dark tree-sized something kinda swaying back and forth about 50 yards from us. We all turned around and ran immediately. Worst part is none of our parents believed us at the time. They didn't even question why we came home the first day into what was supposed to be a 5-day camping trip. What? Yo. Now this just makes me curious, how many animals do we know that exist on land? Because I know in the ocean there's so much that we don't know. A high percentage of the ocean is unexplored, okay? What about land? I don't know, I'm dumb. Midnight, it's dark out, home alone, no pets, mum out of state, so I locked the doors. Back deck door was open. The deck overlooked a cliff, essentially, so there's no way anyone could have come inside that way. I was watching TV all night, sitting on the couch downstairs. I went upstairs for some reason, but I was up there for a little while. All the lights were off and the TV stayed running. Again, I was home alone. When I walked downstairs, some lights were on and the kitchen cabinets were open. I swear the TV sounded louder than before. I thought my mum came home or something, but her car wasn't in the garage. At this point, I was a little freaked out, so I called her, but she didn't answer. She was probably asleep already in Boston. I walked around the corner to see if the front door was open, and it was. I was spooked, but then the garage started opening. No car came, and I waited for a little to see, but no one came. I was sitting in the kitchen, facing a closet that had jackets that looked like people. So I kept freaking myself out. Oh my goodness. After a bit, I jumped in my seat from fear that someone was in the house and sprinted upstairs to my mum's room. I literally did not sleep that night or the next night. Looking back, I feel like it was ghosts because nothing happened after that. No sounds or anything. To my knowledge, it wasn't robbery. I was 10. This is the reason I'm afraid of the dark. I would freak out. Like, even if I wasn't a kid, if at this age, I would freak out too. Is he sure no one came in? Because I feel like, what if someone was like hiding in there, you know? Well, that's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Tell me in the comments down below what your thoughts are. And as always, thanks for watching. Hope you guys liked it. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye!